Hello, welcome to another exciting episode of To The Edge. With me again is Mike Messier, our guest, and we're going to take a trip down memory lane to his very first appearance on To The Edge.
Thanks, Roland. It's glad to be here in this kind of interesting situation. Tell the audience more what we're going to do. This is going to be great.
Well, this is a frame-up. Originally, Mike Messier was interviewed by Eddie Gatto and Mark Bloom, the former hosts, and he discussed wrestling with Sanity. That episode came up a bit short in content, so we're using this as a framing device.
Nice.
So, are there any words that you'd like to give on Wrestling with Sanity now in retrospect?
Yeah, Wrestling with Sanity, we had a graphic novel drawn up, and that hasn't been released yet. I'm trying to figure out, and I try to be honest with the audience. Do we give this graphic novel away for free, or do we try and get a publisher or do our own production? And if anyone out there wants to look Mike up, me, just Facebook me. It's Mike Messier, actor director. I'm easy enough to find, and they can chime in with their suggestions. So we have basically a 14 or a 16-page graphic novel. It looks great. An artist named Mark McCrena out of Massachusetts drew it. I wrote it, and it's a great synopsis or a lead-in to the feature film that's still to be made. I feel really good about the graphic novel, and the few people that have seen it say, "Wow, this is fantastic," and I just don't know what to do with it. I'm just being honest here. I don't know what to do with this graphic novel. Put it on the website, PDF it, download it yourself, or do we try and get a publisher for a traditional graphic novel experience?
Right.
Do we send it to film producers or benefactors, investors with money, and say, hey, this is Wrestling with Sanity, a $500,000 budget movie or less, and can you see the vision that I have for this through this graphic novel? I'm stumped, to just be real blunt. I don't know what to do.
Find a solution. But in the meantime, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. Enjoy.
You are watching To The Edge. My name is Mark Bloom.
I'm Eddie Gatto.
And in the studio today, we have, for the first time in a long time,
A real guest.
a freaking real guest. They allowed us to have a real guest.
They trust us. I don't know how.
With us in the studio today, Mike Messier.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here. Mark and Eddie, glad to be your real guest. It feels good to be a real guest on a real show. I've heard good things about your show, and I'm happy to be here.
Lies.
I was going to say, I don't know about those good things.
You want to kick this off?
I'll kick it off. All right.
Cool.
So, tell us about your latest film, which is Chris in the Coffee Shop.
Chris and the Coffee Girl.
Coffee Girl.
No problem.
Jesus.
It says so right on the press release, but
Yeah.
that's okay, Eddie. That's okay.
Yeah.
Chris and the Coffee Girl
I'm
is
still
about,
learning.
It takes place in a coffee shop, so it's all
Okay.
good. It takes place in a coffee shop. This guy named Chris, that I'll be playing myself, is obsessed with the Coffee Girl. And he goes there every day because he's pretending to go to work to fool his father to think that he actually has a job, but he doesn't. He barely has a life. He has an existence, as his mother says. So Chris goes to the coffee shop, obsessed with the Coffee Girl, and when she tells him, basically she says to Chris, hey, Chris, I know what your problem is. He says, what? She says, you're stuck. I'm stuck in what? That you'll have to discover on your own. So then the beautiful barista Coffee Girl goes behind the counter. He's looking at her, and then Chris looks down on the table and he sees this black book, right? And he's saying, what's this, the Holy Bible? He picks it up, he opens it, and it says PGMF, and this is where our story begins. The book starts talking to Chris in his mind and telling Chris how to get other women. So Chris goes on this adventure with the talking book. He finds the coy librarian, the gym greeter, the pizza house waitress, the hemp girl, the new age girl, and he keeps coming back to the Coffee Girl because who he's really intrigued with is the Coffee Girl. So where we're getting at is it's about, do you want to play the field your whole life, if you get to that point of playing the field, or do you want to go for that one special girl? And that's when we have our climactic end of the movie when Chris is driving in his car. See, this is driving. He's driving in his car and he has the book and shotgun, and the book's telling him to go hook up with all the gym rats, the gym people. And
Yeah.
Chris is like, I don't want them. I want to go to the Coffee Girl. And the book's like, come on, you fat. Pull over, and Chris has to decide, and I won't let it. Have to wait.
Yeah.
You gotta actually see the movie.
Yeah. And the best entertainment, the best fiction comes from nonfiction, you know, and you can relate to this, you can relate to this. It's feast or fathom, you know, a lot of times. But not just men as far as the women, you got women with men, you know, and you never know. But I think everybody in their own way is sexually repressed these days. You know, it's not the swinging 70s anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we're repressed and we're all screwed up these days. But there gives me the opportunity to make a fun movie, you know, and just show like, hey, you know, this is a comedic exploration of sexual inadequacy.
But in this movie, you've got some sort of cool names working on this. I mean, you got Raven.
Yep.
That's going to be working on it. Maria Kanellis.
Yep.
I mean, what was it like getting those guys?
Well, it's been fun. You know, Raven has been sticking with me for like 3 years. Raven and I have another project going called Wrestling with Sanity, which I think we're going to take a clip from the trailer of that later on. But Raven's just a real cool guy. For those who remember, Raven was in ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. He was
Legend.
a 27-time hardcore champion in WWE, WCW US champion, et cetera, et cetera. So he's a big name in wrestling. Raven's getting started in acting. He did a movie with the Insane Clown Posse. He did a movie called
ICP.
He did a movie called Sleeper in Australia. And Raven is into it. You know, he's playing the book. He's playing the pickup artist book, the voice in my head, who's going to be telling me what to do with these women. I think it's going to be hilarious.
Do you find it easier to work with somebody like Raven as opposed to like Maria Kanellis, who's a known name?
Right.
And do you find it easier where you're acting more as an independent film production company to get these artists to commit?
Well, I do have a production company called McCremy, and they are under Croesa Michelazzo, and she's a friend of mine who just has a real interest in my career. And I approached Maria. She's, you know, I went through a little, you know, just a little bit of negotiation. Maria says she's in. She's going to do the movie, and but we haven't shot with her yet. This project is brand new. I just wrote the script in October, November 2010. So to get going here in 2012, that's actually a quick turnover for a movie.
I've heard. Yeah.
How did it get off the ground?
Well, I wrote it, you know, and the first thing to do is to live that experience of being, you know, repressed and not knowing how to deal with women. So I lived it first. Then I wrote it, and I had some encouragement from a couple of friends of mine who said, hey, this is pretty good, you know. And then I kept on writing it. Then when it was done, I showed it to a couple of friends, and then I said, well, you know, Raven has been sticking by me, and he would be funny as this book, the Pickup Artist book. We call it the PGMF. So I said, let's get Raven to do this thing. I sent it to him, and he was curious about it, so he agreed to do it. And then I saw Maria Kanellis at a pro wrestling show in Fall River, Massachusetts, Top Row Promotions. And you know, over the course of 2 wrestling shows, I gave her the script and then a little email communication, and she agreed to do it. And then I heard from Big Daddy V, who was Mabel and Viscera. Right,
Yeah.
big man. So the big man, Big Daddy V, he wants to be in it, so I got a role for him too, fashion store attendant. My old
That's going to be awesome.
Beware. Vince McMahon comes down out of the castle.
Right.
I want in.
Right. Well, I'll cast him as something. I don't know. Mark, you like this. We got Ox Baker. You know, he's a friend of mine. Ox Baker has actually sung Happy Birthday to me 2 years in a row. He's a great guy, a gentle giant, real nice guy. So he's playing big, scary dude, which shouldn't be much of a stretch. So we got some cool names in this thing.
So far, what's production been like?
Well, we're in pre-production, and we're shooting late April with Raven, and we have a whole setup with that, and that'll be the first test, you know, and people can look at MikeMessier.com, if I can say that, MikeMessier.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, MikeMessier.com.
Say it again.
MikeMessier.com.
Right.
Mike Messier is the important part.
You guys
Yeah,
got
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? You got that?
So people can check in. I do a blog now, and I'm taking care of my own website now. With So it's pretty cool, and people are going to enjoy that, you know, to see what we're up to.
All right, well, let's check out a clip. Now, this is Wrestling with Sanity.
They have a clip?
We actually have a clip.
You know, Frost once said there was a fork in the road, and I took the road less traveled. And that has made all the difference. In other words, you'll never be insightful by quoting from famous people. You'll go out, get some life experience. That's what makes an interesting writer.
You ever get writer's block?
No. You're the artist.
Sometimes the words come so easy to me, it's like I'm not even writing them. Like I'm God's tool. Divine intervention. Like sometimes I'll stay up real late at night, 4, 5 in the morning, just to see if I can outlast the other writers who are staying up late in their handmade prisons. And then God picks up my pen, writes it for me, and I put my name on it.
Isn't that plagiarism?
If If I signed to God, it would be sacrilege.
I don't want to be an interesting writer. I want to be rich and famous,
Why?
so I'll never have to start a conversation.
Oh, you guys
right.
got to. That's awesome.
Gotta
Thank
check
you.
it out.
You got to
Thank
check
you.
out that movie.
Thank you.
Definitely.
It's on wrestlingwithsanity.com, wrestlingwithsanity.com, and that's a project I feel really good about too. And what that is, real quick, is we made 3 short films that won 3 awards to promote the feature film Wrestling with Sanity, which we haven't gotten to yet. It's a long story, we don't have time for it, but wrestlingwithsanity.com explains more about it. And that's another project for down the road. You know, guys, sometimes I feel like a chess player. You know, if you guys play chess, you've got to move 2 or 3 pieces, 2 or 3 moves ahead in your mind before you actually move those pieces. And sometimes with my filmmaking, I feel like that, you know, because I've got 2 or 3 projects going on at once. We had another one called Blood, Sugar, Sid, Ace, which is about a guy in his 60s who's reflecting on his life, making mistakes with career and women. We filmed that last summer in Olneyville, Rhode Island. And we're getting ready to have that released for summer of 2012.
That wasn't done on Dyke Street in Olneyville.
Yeah,
was it?
we went to Wes's Rib House a few times. Free plug for them, but we had a lot of fun in Olneyville in the summer, if that can actually happen. But we did. We had a great cast and we had a good time. So. Me and you, Eddie. Well, I'll keep talking about myself. You know, it's good.
It sounds good for me.
So I've been making movies for a while. I did a movie with Sybil Shepherd. I actually played her son in a movie called Hard Luck. Yeah, Sybil Shepherd. I had a fight scene with Mario Van Peebles, who directed New Jack City. Wesley Snipes comes in at the end, hits me in the back of the head with a saw handle. That's called Hard Luck. It's available on Netflix. So watch it.
I was going to ask that. How does that really work? How do you get set up with somebody like Netflix?
Well, we're going to find out, to be honest with you. I don't have a film released on Netflix. Hard Luck, I was an actor in. I wasn't the producer. But on my own stuff, that's a discovery I'm going to learn, you know, with Blood Sugar Sid Ace, and next with Chris and the Coffee Girl, and eventually Wrestling with Sanity, and some of the other scripts I've written. I wrote one, You Like This, for Diamond Dallas Page, who I have on my keychain. I wrote a script for him called Feel the Bang, which I just got to DDP, and I wrote a script called Bad Girls with Good Tattoos. I wrote a script called God is My Best Friend, Fighter Play Basketball. There's a lot of scripts bouncing around this head, and the good thing, Eddie, is that they're actually on paper now. I've been writing these scripts, and I feel pretty good about that.
I'm trying to be a screenwriter.
Yep.
And I feel like I get into situations where, like, I'll have an idea, and sometimes I just, for some reason, I either see the beginning and don't know how the hell I'm going to end it.
Well,
or I'll see an ending and not know how I'm going to begin it.
If I could recommend a book, it's called Save the Cat by Blake Snyder, and Save the Cat is probably my favorite screenwriting book.
Yeah.
You can get 20 or 30 screenwriting books, but I would say 2, Save the Cat by Blake Snyder, and Screenplay, Writing the Picture by Rusin and Downs. 2 awesome books. And for the viewers out there, once again, Save the Cat, Blake Snyder, Screenplay, Writing the Picture by Rusin and Downs, and you got to get Final Draft Screenwriting Program. People use another one, The Opponent, which is Celtics from the internet. No deal. You know, Celtics is not that good, and I can go on and on about all this. But you know, really, Final Draft is where it's at, Eddie.
Yeah, I had a professor that suggested us using, you know, the Celtics or Celtics, whatever the hell it's called.
Right.
And I don't know, the whole time I'm reading the book that he had us, you know, get.
Yeah.
And the whole time it's just not matching up with what Celtics is doing, you know.
Yeah.
It's saying like, oh, you know, in the industry they want to freaking see this. And,
right.
You know, things have to be like this, and then the Celtics, I'm like, okay, well, it's not doing that.
Yeah, well, you know, we could go on and on. But let's talk wrestling. Let's talk some fun stuff. You know, I've been involved in wrestling and Top Rope Promotions. I do the color commentary now.
Nice.
That's where I met Maria Kanellis, and that's where I met Brutus the Barbecue Beefcake, Jake the Snake. We just had the Dudleys come in to Top Rope Promotions, and they wrestled each other. And Spike Dudley,
Bully Ray, and
Brother Ray, and
Brother
Devon.
Ray, okay.
Yeah, Ray versus Devon in a match for all the wrestling fans who know the Dudleys, and we had Spike Dudley, who's actually a Lincoln, Rhode Island resident. He came in and was a referee.
Oh, nice.
So I was doing commentary, and I'm watching 3 Dudleys go at it once. We've got a really good champion now, Matt Magnum, who just beat Matt Taven. They had an awesome 35-minute match just last week at the 31st anniversary of Top Rope.
Oh, wow.
We've got a great promotion in Fall River. You know, people want to see wrestling for an affordable ticket price.
Of course.
Come on down. You get to shake my hand.
Yeah.
And if you really want to get close with Mike Messier, check out MikeMessier.com, and you'll see all my stuff. You know, you see my Indiegogo thing with raising funds. You see my associates, Carissa, Ryan. You know, all the people that are working with me. You'll get to know more about them. It's good. It's good stuff. Yeah.
Something about the wrestlers. How do you find? Because I know like some people always say, "Oh, you know, these wrestlers. How are they going to translate into being actors?"
Right.
You know, I mean, obviously everybody tries to put a wrestler to the pedestal of The Rock.
Right.
You know, and not everybody can be The Rock.
Yeah.
You know, but I've seen a lot of great movies that you don't even see go through the theaters, like Stone Cold Steve Austin's, some of his movies.
Right. Right.
You know, you never even heard of, and all of a sudden there it is. But how do you feel they translate into like being an actor?
Well, I think the wrestlers have that personality already, and it's just how do you focus their personality into a character.
Yeah.
So it's not just Stone Cold Steve Austin being Austin 316, I'm going to whoop your ass.
Yeah.
It's him playing the guy in The Condemned or any other movie, or The Rock. You know, he's the highest echelon here, but if you talk, he's still got to learn how to act, and he's had a great progression. If you watched The Rock's earlier stuff in The Scorpion King, and now you watch him in some new stuff, he's doing a lot better. Like Gridiron Gang was really good. But if you're talking about the guys that I'm working with, I worked with Eliminator John Cronus, who was from Boston, Massachusetts area.
Yeah.
We did a movie in one night called Wrestling Son, Memories of My Parents' Divorce. And John Cronus and his girlfriend at the time, Casey Strader, actually played my parents. We had a really weird setup where I was doing the camera and I was talking like a little kid, little Jack behind the camera. And I had Cronus and his girlfriend play my parents. It was a lot of fun.
That's
so
cool.
he just did it, you know. And the thing with wrestlers is that they just do it, you know. They don't get in their head too much.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of us do. We think things to death, but these wrestlers are just off the cuff. The good ones are off the cuff and they just rock it, you know. It's awesome.
You're into documentaries too.
Documentary, I did one documentary called Rejected by Reality, and I used my experiences being rejected by reality TV shows to make a documentary, and I used my audition tapes. So who I was rejected by was pretty good stuff. HBO flew me out to California from Rhode Island on their dime to do a reality show pilot called Candidate 2012. The show never made the air, but I did get to audition for Jay Roach, who directed Meet the Parents in the Austin Powers trilogy. I got to meet him and R.J. Cutler, who's real big in documentary world. And that was a cool experience. And then I auditioned for Tough Enough, believe it or not, for WWE.
No kidding.
I was a little bit more jacked up at that time. And then I auditioned for the Jerry Springer Show as Smudge Baby, my cross-dressing, baby-holding, other alter ego type of deal. Put these compilations together and I made a reality show documentary. That's my foray into documentary world, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And you do
Public access?
Yeah.
I do public access in Rhode Island. I do the Mike Messier show.
Do you have guests on the show? Like, let me ask you something, because I do, besides this show, I have like another show that I do. And I'm always trying to get, I mean, it's a metal music video show. So I'm always trying to get, you know, artists to come on or, hey, let me do an interview. And I've run into like this thing where it's like impossible at times to get anybody. I sit there and say, well, if it wasn't for me or anybody else that's a fan,
right,
you know, you guys wouldn't be where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, that aggravates the hell out of me.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, you know, anybody who is in the entertainment business realizes, like you were saying, that the fans put food on their table and clothes on their back, you know. So they gotta appreciate the fans, and if they don't, you know, it's unfortunate.
It's like, hey, you know what? I lost. I had a situation one time where I was interviewing a guy, and I always felt like, you know what? I have to look up some information, you know, because I'm not going to go into an interview and, you know, be like, well, I don't really know who you are, so can you tell me about yourself?
Yeah.
And I found he was in a rivalry with another band.
Okay.
And I think that was like the biggest friggin' mistake I ever made in my life. Because I asked him, I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Why would you ask me that question? Like, you know, and I'm like, oh, sorry. And
wow.
That was like my first ever interview with anybody, and what an experience that was.
Good way to start.
Yeah, right, no kidding. And it was just like, but after that, I just was like, you know what? I'm not a fan of yours anymore.
Yeah, why would you be? Yeah.
You know, it's like you've lost my respect in a way. when did you actually decide that film was what you wanted to do?
Film, for me, I think I started when I saw Goodfellas.
Oh, okay.
That's a Martin Scorsese film, I believe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And when I saw Goodfellas, I was like, this planted a seed.
Yeah.
You know, and then in high school, I wrote a film called World War III Part 2, where George Bush and Roddy Reagan, we call them, and Saddam Hussein, they all rapped their way into character.
Okay.
So I was doing some pretty weird stuff back then. But I think Goodfellas was the launching point. And then a few years later, Highlander. I didn't see it in the theater, but I saw it on disc.
VHS.
No, I actually saw it on
disc.
Yeah, the big disc.
Oh, laser disc.
Yeah, laser disc. You imagine
which was
that?
a failed attempt.
Yeah.
Oh God, if I ever seen one.
But you can use them as flying saucers
now,
or frisbee tag or whatever. But back, those were kind of the early implement. And I can't really do anything else, even including speak.
Yeah.
But I can't really sell insurance, which I've tried. I can't do anything 9 to 5. I have to be outside the box, and that's where I'm floating around.
I feel the same way though.
Yeah.
I feel like these everyday jobs that people. I mean, no offense to anybody at home. If you work, a 9 to 5 job, hey, you got to pay the bills.
Right.
But for me, it's just that's not possible.
Right.
I mean, I can. Like I told you before the interview, I've been a wrestling fan since I can remember.
Yep.
And me deciding to do this stemmed from wrestling.
Right, right.
Because the whole entertainment, the whole, the big stage, the grandest stage, and then, a combination of heavy metal and films, like, I was just like, I have to do that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you guys like yourself and me and probably a lot of viewers at home, they say, I don't fit into society. Well, an outsider is someone who doesn't fit into society, but fits into their own world. You know, and the trick is to make your own world part of the world at large, and it's tough. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Because making independent film, hosting shows like yourself, they don't necessarily pay up front. You have to fight your way through it and make it work for you.
Yeah, definitely. Now you've done some short films.
Yep.
What was it like to do the short films?
Well, the short films are good because you can make a short film on a budget.
Yeah.
The Wrestling with Sanity short films that you saw the little clip of, we basically ate Lunchables for lunch, the little Oscar Mayer kits, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we had one of our location ladies, Lana, made us soup, so we saved a lot of money on food, if nothing else. And, it's really hard to make a feature. It's a little bit easier to make a short.
See, I've always, because, I did the screenwriting thing, and, I found it somewhat easier a little bit because for some reason I think in a feature film type of mentality, and I can't wrap myself around the short film.
Okay.
Because I sit there, I'm like, well, how the hell do you write a short film?
Yeah, it's you can write a short film to go to a webisode, or you can write a short film to represent a larger story.
Okay.
But I hear you. Sometimes those stories are just huge,
Well,
but
that's
maybe
what I mean.
those should be features. It's
Okay.
It's okay, Eddie.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know. I just for some reason, I sit there and I think you're right.
Right.
My ideas may be just too big.
Sure.
For that.
Yeah.
But obviously you've acted.
Yep.
Tell us about your acting experience.
Well, the Sybil Shepherd thing was great, and then just a few months ago I went to do extra work, background acting for a movie called Great Hope Springs down in Connecticut, North Stonington, Connecticut, and this is a good one. I actually got put in a scene with Elizabeth Shue and Meryl Streep.
Wow.
And it wasn't a speaking role, but basically Elizabeth Shue, she's playing a bartender, Meryl Streep comes in, and they're talking, and Meryl Streep says, "Man, I'm not feeling so good. I haven't had sex in a while." So Elizabeth Shue says, "Well, honey, don't worry about it. I haven't had sex in a while either. In fact, most of this bar, nobody's having sex." And then Elizabeth Shue, in character, says, hey everybody in this bar, raise your hand if you're not having sex." And so half the bar raises their hand right away. I'm sitting there drinking a beer, just looking around. And then Elizabeth Shue, as the bartender, says, "Hey, Mike, I know you're not having sex. Raise your hand." And then I begrudgingly, so that happened like 3 or 4 months ago, and that's led me to that day that happened. I said, "Wow, I really got to make Chris and the Coffee Girl movie now," because even Elizabeth Shue is reaching into her pocket, metaphorically or spiritually, whatever. And we're making this movie already. So there you have it.
But we're going to leave it on that note. Mark, I want to thank you for coming on. Mike.
It's okay, Eddie.
I'm mixing you up with my partner.
He just left.
Yeah, that's why he's still in my head right now.
Yep.
But I want to thank you. And again, check it out, MikeMessier.com. All right.
Thank you.
Tune in next week. We'll have more. Hopefully, we'll have Mike back again.
I'll love to come back. It's so much fun. We need to go to another episode. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. We could do more of this. But all right, everybody. That was To the Edge. Peace.
Wow, that takes me way back.
It was good. I mean, and I'll say the first time I showed up to the studio here in Bridgewater, I had a great time. Even with the chaos of that first episode, I say that in a fun way because you remember we had some fun on there.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
It was cool, and I was saying before we went down memory lane that sometimes I think to be honest and just say, wow, I am stumped with some of my projects. Help, if you're out there and you get that rich uncle, or you are the rich uncle, more importantly, contact your buddy Mike Messier and help him out, because the story Wrestling with Sanity, psychiatric hospitals, the escapism of pro wrestling into a different state of mind, and basically the psychiatric hospital in the movie is a place between reality and non-reality. And I think that's a really interesting story that hasn't been explored. It's not a great movie like The Wrestler. The Wrestling with Sanity is much different. And a movie like Girl Interrupted about the psychiatric hospital. Wrestling with Sanity, much different. But I think you'll see elements of those two great movies in what I'm trying to do with Wrestling with Sanity. And I love to tell that story, man. I just, when people read the script, they're like, this is unique. Jacob's Ladder, with Tim Robbins and Macaulay Culkin type of unique, something that hasn't been seen before. And it's tough because when people make movies, comedies and horror are what people go to invest in. And my project, Wrestling with Sanity, and you can Google the website, it's very easy to find, Wrestling with Sanity. It's not a genre movie, it's a unique art house wrestling movie. And that's just not common,
Right.
Yeah, so, and I got the best, I've got some great actors involved in that piece and some wrestlers, and it's just and one thing I'll just share with the audience is, as a filmmaker, sometimes when you've made the film in your head, you have to jumpstart yourself to even make the movie reality, like to make the movie, because if you get the movie playing in your head, it feels good. You're like, I can see these scenes with this music, with these actors, but then you have to do the hard work and make the movie. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Like the movie is up here, but you can't see it because it's in my brain, unless we hook up some electrodes,
right.
Some science fictional type of world. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, I look forward to seeing it eventually.
It'll happen.
Thank you for watching To the Edge, and we'll see you next week.